Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Randal Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Randal Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary and Randal Records. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like them. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's up, everybody? I'm Randal Wyatt.
Hello.
What's going on?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that like Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, so born and raised in Portland. Mm-hmm. Got into music. I've always been an avid hip hop fan. Mm-hmm. All kinds of music. It just spoke to me. It's been my outlet. So just always been rapping, freestyling with friends throughout school. Decided to take it pretty seriously once I became a father at age 19. Currently, I am a executive director of a nonprofit I founded 4 years ago, and a community activist.
Oh yeah. Well, that's awesome. And we're going to get into all of that throughout this. But let's start right at the beginning. What got you started in music initially?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's just always been a part of my life, big part of my family's life. So I grew up with music always playing in the house.
Okay.
I have two older brothers. So hip hop was kind of more of a new phenomenon when I was really little. That's when it started really becoming commercial. We were really into it. And I just, I had one brother that was big into the East Coast hip hop, another one that was into West Coast hip hop.
So you just kind of got caught.
I got it all in the middle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just found myself loving to write poetry, have an infatuation with words. Mm-hmm. Eventually, originally I didn't think I could, because I listened to a lot of like gutter, like gangster rap type stuff. I didn't think, because I didn't live that lifestyle, I could write. It wasn't until I heard artists like Mos Def and Talib Kweli and kind of those people that spoke about more vulnerable things that I could relate to. That's when I saw that, I can actually write about, real things that I'm going through. I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not, and actually just put my thoughts onto paper. And it was a hell of a therapeutic process for me. So
that's awesome.
I just started pursuing it and started recording at like 15 years old.
Oh, damn. You got started early.
Yeah. We were recording on like karaoke machines.
Okay, yeah.
I have a buddy that's kind of like MacGyver, and he was putting together all kinds of weird gadgets to figure out ways for us to record on the cassette tapes and stuff.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And those are two really good examples of like solid examples of artists who like could do it without having to like attach on to those certain type of like styles and things. Also, the Black Star album is the first album I ever bought on record. It's hanging up on the wall.
That's one of the albums that changed my life.
Yeah. And then we have a couple foundation questions we check in with everybody on. And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like, as far back as I can remember, I feel like I bought Da Brat on cassette.
Oh, damn, that's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
Yeah, yes. So Functified, I think. But I think the first album that I like really, truly loved that I bought on CD was Busta Rhymes.
Okay.
Coming.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah. Hell yeah.
You really just have been into quality music since the beginning.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And was anybody in your household like other than I guess your brothers like being into it and things like that and like your family listening to it, was there anybody in your family that was like a musician or like a musical artist?
Yeah, my dad was a bass player in a funk band growing up.
Okay.
Up until probably like college or something, until he moved out of they're from Yakima, Washington. So
gotcha.
And then he just kind of, once he had his whole family of 3 kids, he just never really got into it. But I remember he used to just play a little bit in the house, and dabble, you know, but he was more focused on his job and stuff. So it's unfortunate. I would have loved to seen him play live or something, you know, but
no, I feel that. My dad, he did guitar up until like a certain point in life, and then I never really saw him like perform, but he always had one.
Right.
And like never yelled at me when I would pick it up and doodle on it, even though I was garbage at it.
Yeah.
He would never be like, no, don't do that. So I think that, and he always had a piano in the house.
It was really cool later in life when I had my 6-piece band. Oh, excuse me. 6-piece band. He gave his bass to one of my bass players.
Oh, cool.
I actually had his bass in the band for a while.
That's awesome.
That was really awesome. Yeah.
It's cool to see that it kind of like transitioned into what you were doing. Kept it generational.
I know. It was
Do you
pretty
still
cool.
have that bass?
I think my former bass player still has it.
Okay.
I have a couple of his basses though.
Okay.
I have a few of his guitars.
Oh, so he had a few of them.
Yeah, he had a few.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, when he passed, I took all that and
Gotcha. Okay. And then getting back to the foundation questions here. What was the first live show you ever went to? That was like one you wanted to go to. So like you saw tickets, you got them, you went to it.
Yeah. I think the first one I can remember, I was 16 years old and my close friend bought them for my birthday. It was to see Talib Kweli live, and MF Doom opened for him.
Oh, damn. Whoa.
I didn't even like MF Doom. I actually was like, this guy sucks. Who is this? And then later in life, he became one of my favorite artits.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works. But,
he's got an abrasive sound. I think I don't know too many people who like loved him on first listen. It's like once you find out what he's really doing, you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
Man, that is a crazy show.
Crazy show.
Yeah.
And shout out to is it Siren's Echo? I think they actually were the openers. MF Doom was like,
he was right
with supporting act.
Hell yeah, no, I dig that.
Yeah.
And then before we get into more of what you're doing with music in the current day, do you have a defining moment where you like decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yeah, weirdly. I say weirdly, like after my kids were born, I had twin sons at 19 years old, and I thought naively, okay, I'm gonna be able to make a lot of money off this, like it's the early 2000s. I don't know, I'm only 19 years old, but I was already heavy into it. Like right out of high school, I started working on an album, and I just and then I actually got on stage. This was actually, I think this is the defining moment. I got on stage with some friends that had already been performing quite a bit through high school. And then that's when I realized, oh, damn, I really like performing.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And I think that's when I was like, okay, I want to do all this. I like recording. I like writing. And now I'm realizing I really love performing. So
so you really loved the whole process.
I loved the whole process.
And I think that goes a long way into it for sure.
Absolutely.
But now let's go ahead and let's talk about a little more you in the present day.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a super easy one out of the way.
Okay.
What made you decide to use your name as your rap name?
Yeah. So I think it was just like when I started my band back in 2010. Damn, that was a long time ago. 2010, 2009. I decided to stop doing the solo thing. So I used to go by Diesel P for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, and that name was just not... As a little kid, that was like a little kid moniker. You're just trying to do something cool, or you think it's cool. Before that, I went by Diesel the Physicist at first. Yeah, so what I'm saying. So I got the name Diesel from my name's Randy. And like when I was younger, people called me Randy, and I grew 7 inches in about a year and a half, and I was a big basketball player, and so they started calling me Rand Diesel, and then I took the Diesel, and then I learned about the physicist and the nomos. And the physicist is the law of nature, and the nomos is the law of man. And so, just being a kid and trying to be creative. But after a while, he just kind of grew out that name, and Speaker Minds was, basically what I wanted to do full time. It's like, I don't need to have a moniker. I'll just be Randal Wyatt. All my bandmates just had their regular names.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to be Randal Wyatt. And then later, after a few years in the band, I realized I wanted to go back to doing some solo stuff. And I was like, well, I'm just going to be Randal Wyatt.
Oh, yeah.
Because my art is me, too. They're not separate. I'm not. Most Def actually talks about this, too. While he went to Yasin Bey, he had somebody in the airport yell, like, hey, Most Def. And he just, like, realized they're not separate people, the artist and me. It just felt like he's like some character, and that's how I just felt the same way. I was just like, man, my music is literally a reflection of me, my personal life.
Hell yeah. No, I dig that.
Yeah.
And I mean, having listened to a handful of your work now, I can definitely see how that mentality is reached. So that. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Okay.
So when you get inspired, you're ready to make some music.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
I listen to a beat. I hear a beat that I like from one of my, friends or producer. Maybe it's just an instrumental I'm listening to like on Spotify or iTunes or something. And then I'll just start freestyling melodies and not really have words to it. Just come up with like a really good catchy melody, do some freestyling for the, what my delivery is going to sound like on the rap verse. I'm a huge fan of Q-Tip, who's like a guy that can come with all different kinds of pitter patters and cadences and all that kind of stuff. So I always try to think like, what's a cool way to in like a really catchy way, or just, different rhythms of how I'm going to rap. And then from there, once I have the beat, I actually don't listen to the beat when I write.
Oh, interesting.
I can't, it distracts me. So I already have the beat in my head. I have the melody in my head. I have an idea of how I want to rap on it. I have an idea of the bridge, and then I just start putting the words to it with those melodies and all that stuff. And then I practice them to the beat in like sections, like every 4 to 8 bars, and then just make sure they are smooth and go together. Yeah, it's like a piece it together type of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you practice them, do you continue to practice them without the beat?
No, I practice them both. I practice them to the beat.
Okay.
But when I'm writing the words, I need it quiet.
Okay, that's interesting, because then it guarantees that it's gonna flow without it's gonna have its own carry to it regardless, so that when you bring it onto the music, it still has its own musical element to it.
Absolutely.
That's a really
I didn't
cool
really think
approach.
about that.
No, I did. Thank you for sharing that. That is really insightful. I like that. And then once you get a track finished writing, so it's it doesn't have to be released and produced and recorded per se, but once you've gotten it to the point where you can start to memorize it and get ready to perform it, how long does it usually take you to get comfortable to the point where you can perform it?
When I was in I'm not performing much at all right now. I'm just so busy with my nonprofit and everything. So I'm not in hip hop brain, as I would call it.
Fair.
So I would probably need a lot of time to practice it before I felt comfortable on stage. But when I was in the heart of it and playing 50, 60 shows a year, I could write a song and be able to perform it within a week or so after getting it. Once I got it on wax, got it all recorded, and I can actually listen to it over and over and just really beat it into my brain. I would just record it or I would just practice it and be ready to perform it within a week or two.
Okay.
And and if I mess it up, which I typically did, just freestyle, and
that's half the fun of live.
Bring it back to the drawing board. Try again.
Yeah. I always feel like it's fun to take something and try it a few times live, and then even if you press it, readjust it later and do it differently live.
Yeah.
People always tend to eat that up. But
I used to always God, once I started performing something live for a certain amount of time, it's man, I'm so much better at this song.
Yep.
I wish I could re-record it now,
Yeah.
I did that, and I did re-record it sometimes.
Hell yeah.
Or do a live version with my band or something. Did a lot of that.
Live versions are such a lost art at the moment.
I
wish more people would be hey, here's a version of me doing these 1,000 times better at one time.
Right.
But it's neither here nor there. That could be a whole episode's conversation.
Absolutely.
But I did get a chance to check out some of your music. And I mean, you've got music going back to 2017 on Spotify.
Yeah.
And you started with a 20-track, 1 hour long album called Circadian Rhythm, which Didn't realize till today, I don't know how to spell circadian. So that was fun for me to be like, I'm typing this, but it keeps giving me it's that.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you like just kind of hit the ground running with like a body of work.
Well, no, I mean, I've put out music since 2005.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't do the streaming stuff.
Gotcha.
Until 2017 because it wasn't that accessible. I was putting out CDs and selling them in my cars and at shows. I didn't really. I might have had some stuff on streaming, but I got to a point where I was like, my older music was just not really a reflection of me, or I didn't like it, so I took it off, to be honest. And some people are mad at me about that, but I did the Speaker Minds stuff. I have Speaker Minds music from my 6-piece band from 2012 or something like that. But that body of work I think is like one of my best with my partner in rhyme. Fifth Sequence, who produced that whole thing. And rest in peace, DJ Ozrock, who just passed. He was a big part of that. And that's like one of I'm probably the most proud of that work right there. So yeah.
Well, it's definitely a really solid album.
Yeah.
But you did also just put out something a little more recently called No, Things Matter.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, as a fan of literature and like writing in general, I read that and I was like, this is gonna hit. Like I could just tell right away that the decision for that comma to like break it up the way it did.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was cool. Like it had a very powerful message. It just had a really smooth sound, which is kind of indicative of a lot of your work.
Yeah.
Because when I was going through, like I do this bit where I pick a personal track of my own, and I chose Accept Rejection.
Oh yeah.
And that just, I mean, featuring Gift of Gab, and it just right away the bass line was so good. It was super funky. Beat was solid, and the message is so direct. Like there's no metaphors there. There is just like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Y'all were gassing over it the whole time. It's just a really fun track for like its presentation with a really like honorable message.
Man, what a privilege and an honor it was to do a song with him before he passed. Just a year before he passed. A legend in my top 5, maybe top 10, maybe top 5 MCs ever. I mean, what a fun track, and shout out to Evan Flo for the beat. He really did his thing on there. But yeah, man, I got the privilege to open up for the Gift of Gab several times, at least 5 times in my career.
Oh, damn.
And so I got to build a relationship with him, got to know one of his managers, and talked him into doing a song with me, man.
Hey, sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But no, it is a solid track. But I'm curious to know, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Oh, man. To perform solo is probably Over and Over. I love that one. It's just like such an early 90s like house party type to it, which I love. That's like my thing, is like 90s boom bap sound with a message over it. That one, Accept Rejection, is easily one of the most fun to perform. Rocks the crowds, especially that little bridge at the end, if you know what I'm saying.
I almost made notes about it. I was like, maybe I'll leave it off for this, but no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's a good one. It always makes the crowd just crack up and sing along. So that one, there's another one I have called Act Like. That it hits hard. Those are probably my top 3.
Oh yeah. And then do you have any like new music you're cooking up at the moment?
I have songs I'm sitting on.
Okay.
That, I'm going to be putting out. Right now my focus, because I just don't have the energy and time to focus on like putting a set together and starting to perform again. I'm one of those dudes that like, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in. So right now I'm just kind of doing visuals. I'm like kind of like just putting out little videos and stuff, and putting out music here and there, like when I got the time to do it. And I got a few songs I'm sitting on right now.
Okay.
I have some beats that I'm looking into, but I'm just not forcing my creativity right now. I spent a long time putting everything I got into music, and very thankful, because I honestly wouldn't be in the position I am with my nonprofit and all that without everything I learned from music. I mean, the grind of this thing, and you learn so much from it, business side of it and all that. So I'm just I'm just right now just focusing on visuals and creating here and there and not really taking it that serious, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I think that's important in the art. Like, I think for the people who are like always grinding 24/7, they're like, I have to make a new this. I have to put a new song out every Friday. Like that's not how art works.
Right.
So being able to take it at the pace you want to and being able to like live some of the lessons you've learned from it, I think is the best way to approach music.
Absolutely. And I hate to say it, but after learning a lot about the music industry, even though I didn't make it, like, I'm not like, in high up in like the global scene or even national scene, but even just a little bit I learned or seen, I don't know how eager I am to be a part of the industry side of it. So it's just my art. It's an outlet for me. So I just kind of want to treat it like that. It's, something I could do for the rest of my life, as long as, God willing, as long as my voice still works and my brain still works. So I'm just in no rush and just kind of taking it as it comes.
No, that's important. I remember when I was younger, I was over at like one of my parents' friend's house, and this guy had the coolest guitar rig, just like $3,500 guitar, like $7,000 amp, like the craziest pedal board I've ever seen. And I was like, dude, how many bands are you? Like, what are you doing full time with this? He's like, I don't play with anybody. Like, I just play at home for myself. And I'm like, why would you have all? He's like, it makes me really uncomfortable to perform, but I love playing music. So this is for me.
Exactly.
And that was the moment where I was like, oh, this can be a sand garden. This can be a place where you like find your center a little bit. And I don't think that's talked about enough. So I appreciate you.
I agree. We live in a capitalist society, so we think that we need to monetize everything.
Exactly.
And that can take away the joy. And, I've felt that. Getting in fights with your peers over money and all that stuff. So, yeah.
But now let's go ahead and we're going to take a moment and we are going to talk about your nonprofit for a second.
Okay.
Taking Ownership PDX.
Yeah.
Which, I did a little bit of research on it. You started back in, it looks like July of 2020. And I mean, you're focusing on slowly stopping gentrification as well as reparations and communal growth for the Black community, which is powerful. That's important, especially here.
Absolutely.
And I've listened to a handful of the interviews. I've read a handful of the articles. Like, you clearly know what you're doing, and like, you got Nike support in your in the first year. Like that's huge, and you've had tons of platforms to share on. I really liked your conversation from the ideas we should steal fest.
Oh yeah,
that one. It was just. It was engaging. It really opened up like my eyes to a lot of like the approaches and things. So y'all, after this, go check that out as well. But there's a millions of things already out that like kind of talk about it.
Absolutely.
And I mean, like the last thing I'll say is I think it's cool that you've helped over 160 Black homeowners and business owners, and you've raised almost $2 million. Is it over $2 million?
It's $2 million, over $2 million now. Yeah.
Nice. That was like my question.
But I am going to correct you.
Oh,
I don't know what I'm doing. I've been learning. I've come a long way.
Well, I mean, you've made a big impact. You're doing something that like wasn't exactly done until a certain point, and you're leaving a guide for other people.
Absolutely.
Like that, I think is like you said in the interview, you've got a 60-page guide. You can email the people, so you are leaving it better than you found it.
Absolutely.
We can do as people. But like I said, there's plenty of stuff that talks about it already. I want to hear some of your favorite moments from the last 4 years.
In regards to that period. Okay.
Yeah.
In regards to that, I mean, really the best parts are one, just the responses from the homeowners when you do this. A lot of times they're like, they don't believe that I'm going to come in here and fix their home up for free or give them a small, some financial assistance for their business, free of charge with very little hoops to jump through. And I mean, I've seen tears come from people, just the feedback and the respect I've gained from my community for this idea that's boomed into, a legit nonprofit now. And it's looking sustainable, but highlights would probably be getting flown to the East Coast to do that Ideas We Should Steal festival was awesome. I had a woman sell me her house for what was left on the mortgage as a form of reparations to my family, which has been life-changing.
Yeah, and Amy Ross.
Yeah, Annie Ross.
Or Annie Ross.
Annie Ross, and we and her together or I'm sorry, Annie Moss.
Oh man,
Annie Moss. Anyway, her name's all over the place. And together we were able to start a like a collective that helps other Black and Indigenous people have access to basically they get funding from other allies who want to redistribute their wealth, and helps them get in a position to where they can buy a home. So it's just like powerful and so rewarding. I never saw myself in this position to where I'm able to like facilitate and help so many people through an idea out of nowhere. And I got to do an interview with Kamau Bell on CNN.
Whoa.
So that was pretty cool.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, it was very early in the process, so I didn't have a whole lot to say.
Yeah.
And the episode was more about the protests in the streets rather than my former protests. But super cool stuff, man. Like stuff I never saw happening, and especially not that quickly.
Yeah. Well, you've made a huge impact.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful.
Thank you.
Can you share with us a little bit of what's coming up next?
Yeah. So the big thing that's coming up next with Taking Ownership would be getting into like the green building and renewable energies. We are, that's going to be really important that the Black community has access to that with climate change. Poverty stricken and oppressed and marginalized communities are going to be the most impacted as the planet heats up, as weather things change like that, because I don't know if you remember that 116-degree day. If you didn't have air conditioning,
I do.
Yeah,
yep. It's already getting hot in here.
I didn't have air conditioning at that time, and I had to escape to the beach. And luckily, I had that flexibility and means to do that. So that's a big thing we're going to get into is just getting into that field, and then I want getting that model out to other communities across the nation, to other community leaders, seeing if they can implement something similar and make a similar impact in their communities, and then working with pre-apprenticeship programs. So like youth programs, they teach youth the trades, and then we are going to provide the on-site construction places where they can do the work in exchange for the hours towards their trades. And my son already was a part of that. He already graduated one of those programs and worked on home with us. So it's really cool. That's where I started, but that's where I was working in that world while I started Taking Ownership. So it has a special place in my heart with pre-apprenticeship and with I've always been about the youth, and mentoring them and stuff like that.
I mean, that's really where it matters. You know what I mean? Like that, they always say the kids are the future.
Absolutely.
It's very much true. But, I got to say, for a guy who says he doesn't know what he's doing, you're sure doing a lot of things that you know what you're doing. Yeah. So that's like,
true. I'll say that's like, I didn't know what I was doing. No. I've been learning, and I had never worked in housing. I worked in mental health prior and in social services. So I had no clue. I just kind of knew how to organize. I knew that I had a platform thanks to music. I had a platform, and I've just kind of been learning as I go and building the plane while flying type of thing. And it come to find out, actually, I'm pretty knowledgeable now. But I always try to explain to people, like, you don't got to be an expert to be impactful. And that's one thing, unless you're trying to be like a brain surgeon or something.
Then maybe go to school for that a little bit. Just a smidge.
Yeah, if you got ideas for the community that are only gonna help the community, you don't have to be an expert. And so you can learn as you go.
Hell yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that with us, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. But now let's go ahead. We're going to get back into some of the more music focused questions. And for this next one, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's look at music as a whole. What are some of the things about newer music that you enjoy right now?
Newer music. Let's see. I guess I listen to some newer music.
It doesn't have to be like stuff that came out like today per se, like hard radio play, but just stuff you've experienced more recently.
I'm really into like some ambient. I like big bass kind of sound and stuff too. I'm not a fan of the heavy auto-tune sounding raps, but there's some really good young dudes that can spit. I like hearing about what's going on in their generation because I'm getting older now. Yeah. I'm a little detached. I do have 2 19-year-old sons, though, so I get to kind of keep up with them. I like to have fun, too. Like my life, like I said, I've been a dad most of my life, so now they're older. I get to get out more and have some fun, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm a partier. I like to get into get in there. So I like the music. I like music that can make me move. You know, it's like some of that undeniable stuff.
Yeah.
Funk and any of that kind of stuff. So, I think that's what I like. But I won't lie. Like when it's on my time, I listen to just a lot of the same kind of style boom bap stuff. And I like to go back. I'm a very nostalgic person too.
No, I dig that for sure. You know, I pride myself in always listening to my release radar and my Discover Weekly pretty much every week. That's like it before I'll do anything else. But as soon as I get through those, I'm always just like, all right, what's like something I need to like revisit?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I always go back to like a Childish Gambino album, or I go back to like Feel Good, or not Feel Good, like Demon Days. Like, like I have my like.
I saw your Gorillaz almanac. I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, big fan. But like, I think it's good to have those things that kind of like you resonate with, that you like grew up with. They did studies on that, how like listening to music that is like nostalgic actually like gives off different brain waves and like sets you in a place of like comfort. So
for sure. I mean, I do that stuff with TV. I listen to the same, or I watch the same shows sometimes.
Shout out to The Office.
Yeah, that's one of them. Workaholics. I watch that like at least twice a year, go through all the seasons, Family Guy, stuff like that. So, but I will say this actually, now that I got a chance to kind of think about it, what I love about hip hop is that it's been pretty new, but it's getting older, and a lot of the artists that I grew up on are still making music in the 50s. Like Nas, I feel like is putting out some of his best stuff right now.
Yeah.
Run the Jewels. Juicy J just put out a record. I like, I grew up on 3 6 Mafia and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I really love, is like seeing some of my heroes from when I was a kid, or some of the people I loved as a kid still at it, and which, that's why I feel like I'm in no rush, because like I can take a hiatus, and who God knows, maybe I'll put out a hit record at 55.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That, and I just from like interviews I've heard with them and such, like just like people who have been in it for the longest, there's a different type of wisdom that they give out now.
Yeah.
Like we didn't get from them when we were younger.
No.
Because they were, they were living in the moments. They were also younger. They didn't know what they were doing yet.
Right.
And so like just that growth that we've gotten to experience as we've grown. Right. Like I think is really special.
I know. I can relate to their music. I can learn from their music. They was so young. We didn't even know what they were doing with it. Yeah, what direction they were going yet. I mean, like the inventor of it is, in his late 70s. So it shows you how young it is. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And then before we move into the next portion, which is all hypothetical questions. This next question is probably the densest one in the interview. But we talked a lot about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Oh man, it depends on what the music is and what mood I'm in. It's like a reflection of, it depends on what I need. Sometimes I cry to music sometimes. There's songs where I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know I needed that cry. Stuff that because it reminds me of so many things, because it's been so important to me that, I can play a song that reminds me of my late father. And I'm like, oh man. Or I'll play a song of my own that I haven't listened to in a while, and I'm like, oh wow, like I can't believe I did that when I was 25 or 29, or even peering into my own life 15 years ago can mean a lot, and be like, man, look how far I've come. I listen to like healing frequency sounds and stuff like that. I'm all over the place with this stuff.
Oh, that new Lil Jon album then.
Exactly. I might meditate to some Lil Jon. It just depends, and it could just take me back to so many times, and sometimes I want to just go drink some, take some shots to, and party with the guys, or with whoever. It can take me so many places, and I really live a life that makes it like I have a soundtrack. It's like my soundtrack,
No, I dig that for sure. Thank you for sharing that. All right, but with that being said, let's go ahead, let's move on to some hypothetical questions.
Okay.
And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Oh, okay.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would love to work with probably, one person. I'd have to say Nicolay. from the Netherlands. He's a producer. I don't know if you ever heard of Little Brother, or they have there's an MC from Little Brother named Fonte who did this record called The Foreign Exchange with Nicolay that put me on to Nicolay, and he became like my favorite producer.
Oh, damn.
He just makes these gorgeous ambient hip hop beats that also slap. And it's like everything I love in a beat.
Yep.
So I would just, if I could get a whole album produced by him, that would be like, bucket list stuff right there.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Oh, man. I've done a lot of songs with folks. Who do I like locally? I've never done a song with Mike Capes. So that would be cool.
And it's the second time he's been mentioned this
really?
In the realm of this week's world. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
No, he's super dope, and I just like what he did. He made some serious noise. I haven't really kept up. I haven't really been keeping that much that up, but I just remember when I was really heavy in the scene, he was making some serious noise and great sound. So probably working with him.
Oh, yeah.
Would be huge.
Well, everybody, you know what to do. Add him in the comments. Let's make it happen. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limit, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
Oh, that's a good one. Where would I want to perform? I've always wanted to go to like Japan, just perform, anywhere in Japan. I don't know. I feel like they would really love my boom bap type sound. I mean, I know like we briefly got signed to a record label called Juno Records out there. It's a very small one. So like, obviously they like that Circadian Rhythms album. So yeah, somewhere like that, that would be huge.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I always say I try to like pick a few spots I would ever want to do interviews, and one of them would be either on or in front of that giant life-size Gundam.
Oh yeah.
Like every time I see that, I'm just like, that would be like that being the backdrop of an interview would be crazy.
Or maybe even like in the birthplace of hip hop, if I could ever go back to New York and perform there and have people who are true like hip hop heads and study the art, give me feedback. Yeah. Tell me if I'm whack or not. That'd be cool.
I mean, I think you've got enough solid work out there that they would probably not say that.
Yeah.
I feel you.
KRS One was very gracious, and I got to open up for him, and he really liked our stuff. So even shouted out to the crowd. So that was kind of like a huge moment. Yeah. That's a validating ass.
Very much.
That's the teacher,
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
People Under the Stairs. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're they're from LA. They're from LA, boom bap, really fun. Man, they just made the most fun, free music that was like just perfect for barbecues and stuff like that. And one of the members passed away a few years ago, and so we'll never get another album from them. But if they could, man, I would kill for another album from PUTS.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between now and the end of the year?
At least a couple more videos.
Okay.
So I have a lot going on right now in my life, so I don't have the time. But soon my life's gonna calm down, and I'm gonna put some time into like a couple videos, some new songs I'm gonna put out. And that's probably all I can promise right now.
That's all right. All right. You've got plenty going on. But excited for anything that comes up next.
Yeah.
For this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me at Randal Wyatt Music on Instagram. You can find me at Randal Wyatt, or RANDALWYATT on any streaming platform. You can look up my former band Speaker Minds on any streaming platform. And yeah, you can just check out our music, any of those spots there.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, I just want to say rest in peace to my boy DJ Ozrock, and everybody that, in the hip hop community, because since he passed, we really been coming together, and I've been able to spend a lot of time with them, and I just realized how important that community is to me. And I think that's about all I have for shout outs.
Hell yeah. With that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Okay.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary and Ronald Records. Make sure to click the link below and check them out. Guarantee you're going to like them. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Deep cut. Circadian Rhythms.
Well, yeah.
Obviously
they're going to check out your music after this.
No.
Already.
I would say one of my favorite underground hip hop albums that not a lot of people know about would probably be People Under the Stairs, OST. The album OST is a front to back album, and I think everybody needs to at least give it one listen through.
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah.
It's rare that I hear names that I'm not too familiar with, and you've dropped a couple of them. Yeah. So this episode is going to be on repeat for me for a couple of days while I write those all down.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I don't get to talk music very much anymore, so I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Randal Wyatt.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.